You followed the advice. The morning routine, the lead generation strategy, the delegation framework from people who actually built what they said they built. And it still didn't work for you. Today, I'm going to show you how to know when good business advice doesn't apply to you. And the 3 questions to ask before you run anything through your business and your life, before you install it, before you take the time and the energy to delegate it, before you set it up. So let me tell you about a time that I spent 10 days in Yellowstone. Okay, now if you've ever been to Yellowstone, trip of a lifetime, so game-changing, loved it, already missed the mountains. But I did all the research ahead of time, right? And all the research showed me, get up early, show up before dawn or at dusk if you want to see the animals, if you want to be able to come across the moose and the bison and the elk and the wolves, okay? And so that's what we did, is we woke up early and we went out to find animals and we went out on sightings. And here I am with 32 of my extended family, okay? They all came in from different places and in different ways. And they showed up to Yellowstone for all of us together. And I did all this research and I followed the playbook in hopes of finding the moose, okay? And here my brother, who just goes off whims of whatever he feels like, goes into a kayak middle of the afternoon in the river outside of the park by his hotel, and up strolls a moose 10 feet away from him to drink out of the river. He didn't follow any playbook. He didn't do any research. He just showed up as he was and did what he felt aligned to him. And he ended up seeing the moose. I didn't see a moose, didn't come across it the whole day. And some of our best sightings were actually in the afternoon. All of us showed up with the same goal, the same destination in mind, and it happened differently for us. And here's the deal, is the playbook and the research I did, it wasn't wrong. It just might not have been aligned with my brother or me. And it might not be exactly how to reach the destination for you. And that's the whole thing I want you to do today, is to recognize that good business advice is good and it sometimes can be great, but it doesn't mean it's good or great for you. I'm Lauren Apple. I help CEO parents stop running someone else's playbook and build the one that fits the life they actually have. All right, so let's dive in. Here is the filter I run every single thing through. Before you install another piece of business advice, guru frameworks, download a course, pay for a mastermind, run it through these 3 questions I am going to give you today. Are you ready? Get a pen and paper. Let's write it down, okay? The very first question that you need to ask to find out if advice is going to fail you is this, okay? Does it run on your wiring or against it? The deal is that you and I, we are uniquely created, okay? We have different energies and strengths and weaknesses. Different things drain us and fill our cups. Different things come natural and are compatible to us. And it never looks the same as someone else. Just like every fingerprint is different, your wiring is different. Even if you have the same assessment scores as somebody else, your wiring is going to look a little different. People will work in structure, but when that structure doesn't work with them, it takes more energy, more emotions, more out of you than it should. And sometimes when people have built their business around a framework that actually suits them and fits their wiring, they can't just take that and verbatim plop it into somebody else, okay? And so you need to ask yourself, does this align with my wiring? Does it go with how I am uniquely created? Does it go with my energy levels? Does it go with how I want to show up, okay? That should be question number 1. But wiring is only half of it, because even advice that is built on your wiring, it still has to be built for the life that you have, your current reality and your current constraints. So question number 2 is this written for my current constraints and reality or someone else's? I love to use Alex Hormozy as an example here. We all know last year he had this incredible launch, okay? And so he was on YouTube Live and he was launching his last book and his offer, and he just kept the launch going. He said it was time limited, and then he just kept carrying it on all weekend long, 3 days. But you and me, we can't have a 3-day unlimited launch where we show up live and never stop. We've got bedtimes. and dinners and after school activities and school pickups and sports and all the other things, right? Maybe we have a spouse who works another schedule than us. We have to look at the reality and the constraints of our life to recognize, is this playbook actually aligned with what I have in front of me, with the capacity that I have, with the people that I have, with the relationships that I have? Does it fit into that? Okay, so is it again with my wiring? Does it work with my constraints? And then question number 3 is the one that most people skip. Could you run the aligned version instead of the copied version? All right, we talked about, there's some great business advice. And I had somebody say, man, I've been following such dumb advice. And you know what I challenged them with? It's not dumb advice. It just wasn't aligned stuff, right? A lot of business wisdom, and this is what I spent 3 years of my life trying to rework my business, was following advice that wasn't aligned for who I am as a person, for what my realities are as a wife and a mom, and for how I want to show up with the relationships that matter most to me. And so a lot of times you can take advice and it's really good, but you can actually take that and apply it to your life in a way that weeds out the stuff that's good, right? It's like sifting when you go mining for gems, right? You just sift out the stuff that doesn't apply to you. And the gold that's left over, that's the stuff that you pour into your life. And so a lot of times we can take business advice from people who don't have kids, like Alex Hormozy, right? Or we can take business advice from people who enjoy launches or want to show up on social media and be available 24/7. We can take advice from them, but we have to be able to sift it through what is aligned and what isn't aligned. What is aligned with who I want to be? What is aligned with how I want to show up? I did this Black Friday launch one year because I had some business coaches recommend it to me. They said how successful it was. It was a great time to do that. And every time that I showed up over Thanksgiving weekend to message and outreach people, I just was like feeling crummy. And it took all of my energy to do it. And I recognized, man, working on holidays is not aligned with who I am, and it never has been. Why did I even do this? Like, why did I apply that to my life? And now I have this unwritten rule, right? I will never have another Black Friday launch. I'm not going to hand it off to somebody else on my team because that's not aligned with who I am. I want them to be able to show up for their family and their friends. And so here's the thing is, you need to take advice with a grain of salt. You need to apply it to how you were built, what your wiring is, to what your current constraints and capacity and reality is. And then you need to sift out the stuff that doesn't align with you. Only take in the gold nuggets that align with your lifestyle, that align with your wiring, that align with how you want to show up, and take that and then figure out how it applies to your life. You can be super successful in that way, but you don't have to take someone else's playbook and run it verbatim because it's not necessarily going to work for you. And we see this over and over and over again. Now, if you want to go deeper on your wiring and who you are and how to show up in your wiring and how to understand your wiring, I have a free wiring workshop this Wednesday, July 15th. The link to that is in the description below. I would love for you to show up to figure out what are the main things that I ask people to complete in order to understand a holistic picture of who they are, how they were uniquely created, and what they can apply in their business that works alongside them and their wiring. I'd love to have you there.